We are less than 48 hours away from landing in Leeds as hometown hero Rampage gets his opportunity at Lights Out to reclaim his Defiant world title from Rory Coyle. The Reloaded podcast is on the air. Dave Bradshaw here with you alongside James R. Kennedy as always. And James, I tell you what, as title matches go, this is a pretty big one, not just in the career of Rampage and of Rory Coyle, but in the history of Defiant. Can Rampage, after just 1 month since he's lost that title, can he regain it immediately?
Well, this is, without doubt, one of, if not the biggest Defiant World Heavyweight Championship matches we've had, simply because of all the moving parts. I mean, you look at Rory Coyle, no one expected Rory Coyle to defeat Rampage in the first place at the Magnificent 7 pay-per-view in March. He did just that. He ended the near 1 year long reign of Rampage. He took that championship. Now Rampage has to chase him. Not only that, Dave, but look at what has just been announced. On top of Rory Coyle going one-on-one with Rampage, it's now a no disqualification match. Anything could happen in this match. Here's a question for you though. Who does that suit the most? Because you look at Rory Coyle, he's such a maniacal, dangerous individual. You look at Rampage, who's all sorts of fired up. Gate crashed his own funeral recently on Loaded. Who does this suit the most, this no DQ stipulation?
Well, I think it's interesting that the no DQ stipulation was, as far as we can tell, was requested by Coyle, right? Because I think that shows you that Coyle realises that the odds aren't in his favour quite in the same way they were at Magnificent 7, for reasons I'll talk about in a second. But in terms of the no DQ stipulation, I think it absolutely favours Coyle. Because what we saw at Magnificent 7 in that last title match between the two of them is that Rampage tried to wrestle. He tried to be a professional wrestler, wrestle a traditional match. And that's ultimately what cost him the championship, I think. Because what Coyle tried to do, and was successfully able to do, was to turn it into a brawl. Right, and what he did on that occasion, where disqualification was a possibility, he had to do it behind the referee's back. But he introduced weapons. He did whatever he could to cheat, to take shortcuts, and to scratch and claw his way to the Defiant World Championship. Now, if we're going to have that situation again, but this time he doesn't even have to hide what he's doing because it's legal, it's all legal, then I think that even more plays into the hands of Rory Coyle. So I think to answer your question, absolutely, it's to Coyle's advantage. But I still think that actually Rampage is going to win the match.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'll tell you why. Because
okay, go ahead. I'll give you the floor. What's your justification for that?
Well, two reasons. Right. Well, first of all, last time, if you remember, going into Magnificent 7, we said correctly, I think, that Rampage had never faced an opponent like Coyle. Right, the Coyle is so cerebral. He gets inside people's heads. He's a different style of fighter as well, physically, to what Rampage had faced, and that Rampage would have to adapt his game if he was going to take out Coyle. And perhaps the reason Coyle won the championship is that Rampage didn't adapt as much as he needed to. But we can't say that this time. We can't say, well, Rampage has never faced an opponent like this because he faced Coyle last month. So Rampage will have learned from that experience. That's one reason I think that the advantage swings towards him. But secondly as well, if you think about it, this is the first time really in Coyle's career that his plans here in Defiant have not gone to plan. You know, he came in and he said, I'm going to wipe out Primate and you'll never see him again. That's exactly what he did. Then he turns his attention to Rampage, says, I'm going to take his world title away. He does it. He says, I'm going to stage a funeral for Rampage because you're never going to see Rampage again. And suddenly, everything changes, I think, at the moment that Rampage's music hits during that mock funeral. Because when Rampage comes out, that is the first moment that Coyle did not see things going the way he wanted them to. And I think for all of his smirking and smiling and that outward show of self-confidence, I think that's got Coyle on the ropes a little bit. So those two reasons, Coyle being taken by surprise, Rampage knowing what he's in for a little bit more, I think it will be very, very difficult for anyone to beat Rampage for a second time. Rampage has beaten everyone else in the past year at the first time of asking. So credit to Coyle, I guess, for beating Rampage, but it's very, very difficult to beat Rampage twice in a row. So I'm saying the former champion regains the title.
Especially beating Rampage in such quick succession as well. I mean, Rory Coyle, he must still be, amazed. Maybe not at beating Rampage, don't get me wrong, but amazed that he got away with it. Another grand plan has come to fruition. It's a smash hit success again for Rory Coyle. He got rid of Primate. That was part 1. Part 2 was destroying Rampage and this year-long reign that Rampage was piecing together as the longest reigning Defiant World Champ in history. Rory Coyle destroyed that. And now, Rampage has bounced back. And not only that, Rampage had to go through one hell of a contender as well in Justin the Hammer Sysom, who I think Sysom shot himself in the foot a little bit. Yes, he was admittedly willing to fight for opportunity, and he thought that going one-on-one with Rampage to see who deserved to face Rory Coyle was the right way to go about things. But look at what's happened. Justin Sysom is now on the outside looking in, and he has to watch as Rampage gets his shot once again at the Defiant Championship. A no DQ match. This is going to be huge. Now, we say this a lot mainly because every single time that championship is on the line, it's big, big news. But there's something special about this. The first match between these two men was special enough, but now that Rory Coyle has showed that Rampage can be beaten in that environment, wow, this just goes up a notch. It really, really does. Rampage, Rory Coyle, no disqualification. You have the unknown commodity on the outside of Justin Sysom. We don't know what the future holds for him. Will General Amin see fit to grant Sysom another chance to become Defiant Champion somewhere down the road? There's so many moving parts, as I say. This is going to be must-see.
Yeah, I mean, in answer to that question, I hope so. I think General Amin is the kind of man who will see that Sysom did something very, very selfless in forsaking what was a guaranteed place in that title match on Wednesday night when it was going to be a three-way. And Sysom said, as we talked about last week, Sysom said, no, you know what? There is a better chance of getting that championship off Coyle if either myself or Rampage go in there one-on-one. So let's have a match, put that number one contendership on the line, and one of us goes forward. So it was a very selfless thing to do. Didn't work out for Sysom, and it may turn out that he shot himself in the foot. Quite often these things depend, I think, on who is in charge at the time. If we had a different general manager, then yeah, that might be an opportunity lost for Sysom that he won't be able to regain. I'm hopeful, though, that Sysom gets what he deserves, which is a title shot sometime in the future. But there's no doubt about it. I mean, on Wednesday, he's going to be watching from the sidelines as it's Rampage who takes on Rory Coyle. And that will be painful. If you're Justin Sysom, particularly if Rampage was able to win that championship back, he's going to be looking at Rampage and thinking, man, did my principles, did my morals cost me the opportunity to be in that position that Rampage is in now?
Absolutely.
That's the price you pay, I guess, for, if you want to be a superhuman, a superhero, if you want to be a role model to people, sometimes principles involve sacrifice, and that's what Justin Sysom did.
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't pay. Sometimes it just doesn't pay, because Justin Sysom took himself out of the hunt. For all intents and purposes, that's exactly what he did. Rampage is the benefactor. He won that number one contendership match. Now Rampage has one goal in mind: to take that championship back from the maniacal movie man Rory Coyle. And look at what he has before him. A no disqualification match. There is nothing stopping Rampage 30 seconds into that match, 10 seconds into that match. Hell, as soon as the bell rings, there is nothing stopping Rampage from pasting Rory Coyle's face into the ground and taking his championship. I predict we're going to see blood, we're going to see violence, we're going to see weapons, but at the end of the day, what we're definitely going to see is one man leave with that Defiant World Heavyweight title.
Yeah, that's a really nice soundbite, but I've predicted who's going to win, and then you'll notice that you haven't. So, are you going to give us a winner?
Oh, no, listen, I'm washing my hands of this one. As I say, there's going to be blood. I don't want that in my hands. I'm going to sit in the fence for this one because it's too hard to predict. Now, I know you're smirking. I know you're laughing at that because I've chastised you in the past for not making a firm decision. But Dave, as I said earlier, too many moving parts. There's too many unknowns in this championship match. I can't predict a winner. The only thing I can predict with any accuracy is there will be violence.
All right, well, let's move on. We're going to talk about another one of the big matches that's happening on Wednesday in Leeds. PAC with his third match here in Defiant, going up against the man who won a huge four-way match a couple of weeks ago on Loaded to win the opportunity to face him at Lights Out. El Phantasmo versus PAC. ELP versus PAC, as El Phantasmo put it. And actually, by the way, that little promo from El Phantasmo that we saw on Sunday was bold, wasn't it? I mean, he was extremely confident. He was expressing his frustration, really, at the fact that some people have been talking in terms of, oh, he should be honoured to be the one who gets the opportunity to get into the ring with PAC. Well, from El Phantasmo's perspective, he says, no, PAC should feel privileged to be in the ring with me because while he's been in WWE, the independent wrestling scene has changed, and I'm one of the leading lights who has led that change. El Phantasmo now one of the big names on the independent scene. So from his perspective, he's thinking, you know what, I can beat PAC. I have nothing to be afraid of from PAC. It seems to me a very different El Phantasmo going into Wednesday.
And I think that's a good thing. I really, really do. Because, El Phantasmo, for the longest time here in Defiant Wrestling, he has been the king of cool. Almost Californian cool, if you like. But he's back in his groove now. We've chipped away this super cool exterior of El Phantasmo. The kind of guy who would brush off defeat, the kind of guy who would go on a ridiculous side quest for his LED glasses. We're beyond that now. And I think a big moment in changing El Phantasmo's mindset around here was his defeat to Martin Kirby for that Internet Championship at the Magnificent Seven. That was a huge chance for El Phantasmo to get his hands on gold and vindicate what everyone, the entire viewing public has said that El Phantasmo, one of the greats. He is surely going to be a future champion here in Defiant Wrestling. He failed against Martin Kirby. He cannot afford to fail again. I think El Phantasmo knows that. He says there's a new breed of high flyer in professional wrestling since the last time PAC was on the independent scene. El Phantasmo believes he is the leader of that movement. This is going to be one hell of a match. One thing I'm going to say to the fans of Defiant Wrestling, get yourself a seatbelt and sit down for the duration of this one, otherwise you might feel dizzy. Dave, at ringside, if you see me covering my eyes, it's because I feel dizzy. Now, with the previous match we were just talking about, Rory Coyle versus Rampage, I might be covering my eyes for a different reason, because of the obscene violence. But this is the spice of life, this variety. We have a brawl in one match, and then in another match, which is worthy of main eventing, by the way, we have a high-flying, absolute epic between two men who have everything to gain. PAC wants championship gold in Defiant Wrestling. El Phantasmo wants the same, and he wants to prove to PAC why he is the best high flyer in the world today.
Well, do you think, I think in amongst all of that, you made a particularly good point. But first of all, you made a very bad attempt at alliteration there, because you said Californian cool. He's Canadian. You could have said Canadian cool. It would have worked just as well and been accurate.
No one's cool in Canada, let's be honest. California's where it's at.
Well, it's wrong though. Anyway, but more to the point, I do think you maybe have a good point where you talk about that this new intensity that we've seen from El Phantasmo in that promo on Sunday on Loaded, because yes, for all of the plaudits he's received, and he's received a lot, El Phantasmo is now approaching 1 year. I mean, what is it, 9 months, 10 months now, something like that. He's been in Defiant, and he hasn't won championship gold. And so you do have to start asking, for all of the entertaining performances he's put in, what has been missing. And maybe it is that one thing he's been missing is that extra bit of intensity to take him a couple more rungs up that ladder so that he's able to reach for championship gold. And I think he maybe has had a word with himself, or someone has had a word with him and said, man, you're a happy-go-lucky guy, but you've got to start taking this really deadly seriously, because you're in there against one of the best in the world in PAC. And maybe that change in attitude will be enough to finally drag El Phantasmo over the finish line in a really, really big match.
It has to. It simply has to, because you're right. El Phantasmo, what did I say earlier on? He was on these ridiculous little excursions off the beaten track. You know, he was hunting for these glasses. Now listen, if El Phantasmo can defeat wrestlers the caliber of PAC, he'll have the money to buy 1 million pairs of those glasses. This is so important for Phantasmo. He has said the big words. Now he has to fight the big fight to back that up.
All right, well, one more question on this. Let's talk about from PAC's perspective, right? Because PAC will have been listening to those words from El Phantasmo, and I wonder what... Hello? Are you there?
Dave, are you there? I think the connection's gone.
I mean, it was only a matter of time before I'd pop on, do your little podcast, and say hello. Yeah, that's right. It's me, Rory Coyle, your Defiant champion, the video nasty, the last true sick boy, the movie maniac, whatever you boys have been calling me all these weeks. It seems fitting to pop on the show because I've changed everything. I've changed the intro to loaded. You can't say that you haven't noticed it's a little bit more beat up, a little bit more vintage looking. For some reason, you guys don't seem happy. You don't seem happy with me and what I've done.
What on earth was that? Was that? I assume you had something to do with that.
Oh no, you're not putting this one on me. Now, I admit, in the past, yes, I was responsible for inviting the badness John Klinger onto the Reloaded podcast. And yes, I did want to do a little send-up of you by bringing on the Defiant Tag Champs, the SCC. But Dave, I had nothing to do with whatever the hell that was. Seriously, nothing to do with me. Nothing. I don't even know what the hell just happened.
How? I don't know. I mean, it's unsettling, isn't it, to be honest? He's already a deeply troublesome, deeply problematic world champion for this company, but to see him doing things like that, it was bizarre. Let's hope that's the end of it. We apologise, obviously, for the interruption. I'm a little bit shaken up, to be honest, but we'll move on, and we will keep talking about this big show we've got, Lights Out, in Leeds on Wednesday. We've talked about the world title match. We haven't talked about the internet title match. And that is another one where there has been a late change, much like there was in the world title match. In this case, it's because of injury. Lucky Kid was supposed to face Martin Kirby on Wednesday night for that internet title. Lucky Kid has suffered an injury and is going to be out for the foreseeable future. And so at short notice, General Amin has brought in Sean Kustom to make his Defiant debut. Now, Sean Kustom is someone who Defiant fans won't have seen before, but I've had the pleasure of seeing him and commentating on him in a couple of other places around the UK, Frontline Wrestling in London, WrestleGate Pro in Nottingham, and he is someone who is having a hell of a year. I promise you that. He's one of the big names who's on people's lips here in the UK. And if you've seen him in any of those promotions I just talked about or elsewhere as well, you'll know that he has been pretty close to unstoppable so far in 2019. Wherever he's gone, he is incredibly athletic, very charismatic, very likeable. I mean, I would expect fans to cheer for anyone against Martin Kirby anyway, but Sean Kustom is a really cool guy. He's going to instantly, I think, capture the imagination of Defiant fans. And more to the point, he's captured Martin Kirby off guard, because Kirby was expecting, until very, very recently, to be facing Lucky Kid. So this does have the makings, in some ways, of an upset.
I think this is highly unfair, personally speaking. I really do. Now, Martin Kirby, he likes to prepare for his opponents ahead of time. And trust me on this, he was prepared to face Lucky Kid. Now, this is serious business. This is where Martin Kirby makes his money. On pay-per-view, defending that Defiant Internet Championship. This is where he does his business. And now Defiant Wrestling, okay, it's not Defiant Management's fault that Lucky Kid got injured and had to withdraw from the match. I'm not saying that by any means. But to drop this next challenger in Sean Kustom out of nowhere on Kirby, it's a disgrace, if you ask me. I don't think this is fair. I know you'll disagree with that, but I think this is just another example of Defiant Wrestling's attempt to undermine Martin Kirby.
Yeah, it's all a conspiracy. Maybe it's karma. Have you ever thought of that? You know, the guy who refuses to do what he's supposed to do.
What's she got to do with it?
Oh, you know what I'm talking about. The title was designed to be defended for free on the internet, on YouTube, and Kirby refuses to participate in any championship matches on Loaded at the moment, and so you only get to see him on pay-per-view. Maybe this is Destiny's way of saying, you know what, Kirby, we're going to throw you a curveball if that's what you're going to do, and so you're not going to get the opponent you expected on pay-per-view, and maybe, just maybe, that will be what costs Martin Kirby the internet title.
Well, let me tell you, Kustom, I know very little about him. You know more than I. You've seen him up live and in living colour, but I can tell you he's Australian. So he's going to add to the international flavour that Defiant's roster has, but that's not going to faze Martin Kirby. Martin Kirby has beaten Australians before. He's beat Americans. He's beat Italians, Frenchmen, Spanish, everything. Martin Kirby is truly a champion of the world. Anywhere the internet is, Martin Kirby is a champion, and he excels specifically on pay-per-view. It's where a champion like Kirby belongs. So as much as Sean Kustom has won championships before all around the UK, he's never held anything as prestigious as the Defiant Internet Championship. My prediction for this one is Martin Kirby will shut your big mouth, Dave Bradshaw, and he will retain that championship, and he will roll on like the class act that he truly is.
I will grant you that among the many irritating things about Martin Kirby, and trust me, there are many, one of them is that he does seem to turn it on when he's on pay-per-view. You know, for all of the shenanigans, for all of the nonsense that we see from Martin Kirby whenever he does choose to grace us with his presence on Loaded, when he does get into that situation where his back's against the wall and his championship is on the line, we've seen it time and time again during this internet title reign, and before that as well, actually, from Kirby, that when he's on that big stage, he does pull it out of the bag, and that is one reason to just be a little bit cautious about. A lot of people are excited that Sean Kustom has been announced as Kirby's opponent, and I am too, and I could see an upset, but you've just got to take a breath here and look at the recent form of Martin Kirby when he's on pay-per-view. I think it's very hard to call because it depends how rattled Kirby is, how much he's going to whinge and moan about the situation before the match, and whether he's doing that at the expense of focusing on his opponent.
He won't whinge and moan. All Martin Kirby will do is what he's done.
You just did for like 2 or 3 minutes on his behalf.
No, it's not whinging when it's true. It's not whinging when it's true. The fact of the matter is, Martin Kirby was preparing for one opponent, and okay, as I said, it's not Defiant's fault that Lucky Kid had to pull out. But what should they have done in that situation? Let me think. They should have held a championship procession to Martin Kirby and his internet championship reign. But no. They must have another match on the card. So they pull out Sean Kustom.
Wait. You fancy yourself a businessman, right?
Yes.
Yes or no?
Yes, okay. Absolutely.
So this is a pay-per-view, right? And Defiant is a wrestling company. So they've had a match that was going to presumably get a lot of people to want to watch that pay-per-view in Lucky Kid challenging Martin Kirby. And when that match wasn't able to take place, you're saying that a championship procession would sell more pay-per-views than Martin Kirby having to defend against a talented newcomer like Sean Kustom.
Well, either that.
Are you out of your mind?
Oh, well, listen, either that or, you just give Martin Kirby a microphone, you fire up some karaoke classics, and you let that bird fly, and you hear those magnificent vocal cords that the internet champion has. I mean, he sings all the classics. Have you ever heard him singing Bohemian Rhapsody? It's a thing of beauty.
Yeah, I doubt we'd be able to hear it over the deafening volume of all the refund requests coming in.
Oh.
But anyway, you're not going to get your way. It will be Kirby against Kustom. And as we've said, PAC, Phantasmo, Rory, Coyle and Rampage as well. There are a few tickets left, by the way. So if you'd like to join us in Leeds on Wednesday night, wearedefiant.com/tickets is the place to go. If you can't be in Leeds, you can watch it all live or later on demand on access.wearedefiant.com. And remember, if you are a new customer, you get a 30-day free trial, so you can watch Lights Out in its entirety without it costing you a penny. Now, we've got another championship match to talk about. Kanji, women's champion, going to defend against Lizzy Styles, a match that Styles has been waiting for a long time, having already defeated Kanji twice in non-championship situations. Kanji, it seems to me, is back on form in terms of confidence. She picked up a win, a much-needed win, I think, to boost that confidence going into Wednesday on Loaded this past weekend. 3 weeks ago, certainly a month ago, I would have said Lizzy Styles is the favourite here, but Kanji seems to have rediscovered herself, and I think this is going to be a hell of a match.
It is going to be a hell of a match, I'll give you that. But, you know, there's one little factor going into this, and it is, and I know you're going to disagree with this, I can just see your face twisting before I even let these words leave my mouth. Kanji has been ducking Lizzy Styles for the longest time now. But Lights Out is a time where she's going to have to face the music. And what fitting name we have for this pay-per-view, because it could well be Lights Out on a title reign that, let's face it, it's been on life support for a while now. Styles, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Lizzy Styles, the one-woman army, is champion-elect. She is the Defiant women's champion that division deserves, Dave.
So hang on, do you want to define why the championship reign of Kanji is on life support? Because to me, that's the opposite of what's happening. You know, I grant you it was a low point for Kanji. When she went to General Amin, her confidence was so low that she wanted to hand over that championship belt, to forfeit it and let someone else have a go. But after that pep talk from General Amin, and yes, despite a few injury obstacles in the way in the meantime, as I say, Kanji was back to winning ways on Sunday. The previous week we had her on commentary with us, and she seemed like she was a much more confident young woman than she had been just a few weeks prior. You know, she doesn't seem fazed by the fact that she's going in there against someone who's beaten her twice. In fact, I would say Kanji now sees that as motivation, whereas before it was maybe fear, now it's determination, and that can carry you a long way, and it may just carry Kanji towards retaining the title.
I'll give you this. When the women's champion Kanji did join us on guest commentary recently on Loaded, there was a quiet confidence behind her words. You know, she took every question that we had to offer and she deliberated. She didn't rush into any answers. Maybe she is ready to face Lizzy Styles, but the fact remains that Kanji has been preoccupied with all these keyboard warriors on social media. Now, whether or not it's true that Kanji feigned injury or was actually injured, that's a massive distraction. Lizzy Styles hasn't had any distraction. She's been laser focused on her end goal. She wants to become the new Defiant Women's Champion so badly. I mean, you talk about confidence. The confidence that Styles had on commentary with us, it blew Kanji away. Again, she is the champion this division deserves, and I believe on Wednesday night in Leeds, we're going to see something special.
Well, Lizzy Styles definitely has been on form, not just in terms of her confidence when she opens her mouth, which she does regularly to tell us how brilliant she is, but she's been getting it done in the ring as well. And in fact, of all the impressive victories in the women's division recently, you've got to say Lizzy Styles to just cut short completely, stop dead in its tracks that winning streak of Laura Di Matteo, the newcomer to the division, who looked like she was just setting the place ablaze, really, in the first 3 matches. But to just stop that dead as she did was impressive from Styles. So that is the scale of the challenge that faces Kanji. But as I wouldn't count Kanji out. You know, you're talking about this like Lizzy Styles is the overwhelming favourite, and I just don't see it that way.
Oh, I believe she is. I really believe she is. Kanji has been running from Styles since the day she clapped eyes on the one-woman army. No doubt in my mind. Lizzy Styles is the complete package. She decided she was going to be Defiant Women's Champion before she even had this opportunity. And that to me reeks of a professional wrestler who has so much confidence in their own abilities and has a real keen eye for spotting weaknesses in champions. And Kanji, unfortunately, has shown a little bit of weakness. Yes, she's bounced back recently, but before that, Kanji, don't forget, was standing there in front of General Amin, ready to hand him her championship back. That does not say to me that she is in the right frame of mind. That doesn't go away in just a few weeks, Dave.
All right, well, we'll find out who is right and what state of mind Kanji is in. But speaking of General Amin, he's been at the heart of a major controversy involving two other matches that are set for lights out on Wednesday. Matches that, as far as we know, are still going ahead. I believe that Joe Hendry and David Starr, both of them have been medically cleared to compete on Wednesday. But they will absolutely not be at 100% after that assault from Gabriel Kidd and John Bad Bones Klinger and the Anti-Fun Police just over a week ago on Loaded. It was an assault, of course, that also took out Simon Miller. It took out Adam Foster, so 2/3 of the Defiant management team as well. I'm baffled, honestly, as to quite how this is allowed to happen. I assume these matches are going ahead because Hendry and Starr have insisted on it, because otherwise I really don't see why Kidd isn't suspended again and Klinger and the Anti-Fun Police should join him. I mean, it was one of the more disgusting things we've seen on Loaded in a very, very long time, what we saw just over a week ago.
Hand me my soapbox, good sir, because I'm afraid I have something to say. I have something to get off my chest. And unfortunately for everyone listening, a lot of people aren't going to like this. But I really believe 100% deep down that this is the truth. Now look at what you've just laid out. The Badness John Klinger, the Young Bull Gabriel Kidd and the Anti-Fun Police recently on Loaded beat the absolute living crap out of the prestigious one Joe Hendry and the product David Starr. It was one of the most vicious, chaotic attacks that we have ever witnessed. Possibly the most chaotic in Loaded history. And what does General Amin do? He finds himself an Asda George suit, he grabs a cameraman, and he announced that No Fun Done was going to face Jack Sexsmith in a match for the No Fun Championship. A match that had already been announced. That match had already been made. Where was the so-called recourse for Klinger, Kidd and the Anti-Fun Police? If General Amin was so sick of these guys, he would have fitting punishments in mind. But no, he sat there like a deer in headlights in his cheap suit, and he told the world we have this big championship match coming up. There was no mention of punishments for anyone else. Let me tell you this, Mr. Bradshaw. It is not a punishment for John Klinger to go one-on-one with Joe Hendry. It is not a punishment for Gabriel Kidd to meet David Starr in singles action on pay-per-view. All General Amin has done is give these dangerous bastards a platform, a worldwide platform to show off what they can do. Now, we talk about a John Klinger problem. There's a Gabriel Kidd problem, an Anti-Fun Police problem, and in my mind, a management problem. Because these guys, they don't have a clue how to fix this. I'm afraid to say they don't. I'm sorry, you're going to disagree with that, but they don't have a clue.
I mean, you do seem to have this ongoing, relentless vendetta against our general manager. I don't understand. What's your end game? Like, are you trying to have him removed from the job? Do you want his position? Like, what? Every week you come out here and you talk and talk and talk about what a terrible job General Amin is doing, but you conveniently leave out some facts. He's already suspended Gabriel Kidd once. You know, yes, I would think that maybe we should see an extension of that, but you can't say he's been totally lenient to the likes of Gabriel Kidd or indeed to John Bad Bones Klinger. I think it is a punishment to go in there against Joe Hendry with the mood that Hendry is in. And the Anti-Fun Police, I'm sure, will get theirs as well in due course. You can't just change the entire complexion of an episode of Loaded after what happened. You know, General Amin's looking at this from the long view. And yeah, maybe it looked weak from a 1 week perspective in terms of what happened immediately 1 week after that assault at the end of Loaded a week and a half ago. But I don't think you've got the evidence really to say, based on that alone, we haven't seen it play out yet. I don't think you can possibly say that General Amin isn't doing a good job.
Well, back to something you just said a few moments ago. Absolutely not. No chance in hell do I want the responsibility that General Amin has. Now, contrary to popular belief, I do have some humanity about me. I know a lot of people aren't going to believe that, but it's true. And part of me does feel sorry for the general manager. He really does. And I'll tell you for why. Because General Amin is fighting a losing battle here. He has the most dangerous collection of snarling athletes that pro wrestling could throw up. John Klinger is out for blood. Gabriel Kidd beats up whoever he damn well pleases. And the anti-fun police, well, they don't respect the authority that General Amin, Simon Miller and Adam Foster have around here. All I'm saying to you, Dave, is that General Amin has to find a way to do better. He's losing control. Did you see the look in his eyes on Loaded recently? He didn't know what to tell people. And when a leader... Go on.
It sounds like what your argument seems to be, that General Amin is a nice guy and that is some kind of weakness. I mean, you can't criticize someone for being a decent human being, and General Amin is a good guy. Like, he's not going to just throw out suspensions, throw out punishments all the time, because Defiant fans want to see these guys fight. And so he knows what he's doing. And moreover, he's not someone who's just going to refuse to let someone like David Starr or let someone like Joe Hendry get the revenge that they believe they need. He's going to try and facilitate that if he can.
Okay, but what happens? What happens if the badness John Klinger spreads and he defeats the prestigious one, Joe Hendry, at Lights Out? What happens if David Starr comes up short against Gabriel Kidd at Lights Out? What happens then? Because this problem that management keep talking about ad nauseum, it'll just get bigger. It'll just go from strength to strength. Whether Klinger wins or not, by the way, this isn't an issue that'll just go away. I really, really worry for the future of Defiant Wrestling when all we have to offer is, we'll do something about it later. You can't have that attitude. General Amin might be a nice guy, but you cannot be a leader of a locker room as vicious as this one if you're a nice guy. I'm sorry, you just can't. In a perfect world, that would be the case, but this ain't a perfect world.
Look, I will grant you, I was somewhat surprised at the lack of sanction this week on Loaded. But as I say, like, General Amin, I think, has brought some credit. He's done a good job up till now. Yes, maybe he could have been stronger this week, possibly. But let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? He's overall done a good job, and we'll see. We'll see over time whether he's able to get this John Klinger problem, get this Gabriel Kidd problem, the anti-fun police, Rory Coyle, all the other problems he's got going for him, whether he's going to be able to manage those. You know, I don't think it's time to give up on General Amin just yet. I do want to ask you one question more specifically about one of these two matches. Gabriel Kidd and his comments for David Starr this past Sunday on Loaded. He said, and I quote, "You'll get so close to beating me and then you'll fail, just like you always do." Now, if there's ever been a statement to get under the skin of David Starr, then that would have to be it. So I'm wondering whether... Oh, for goodness, not again. Hello?
Hello? Are you there?
You see, you didn't appreciate what was going on right in front of you. You didn't appreciate these great UK wrestlers because you're always trying to compare everything that we did to someone else, to something else, and you always got your comparisons wrong. So I thought, I'll just take them away. I'll get rid of Rampage Brown, or Rampage, as we call him on Defiant. I'll give you stuff you've never seen before. I'll host a live funeral. I'll set a man on fire. And then, sure enough, some of you, just like in all good horror movies, some of you started rooting for the bad guy. Because I'm something that you lot will never be. I'm a normal guy. I don't look like a wrestler. I don't act like a wrestler. I've just got one hell of a brain and a sick imagination. Throw in a video camera and you got yourself the last true sick boy. You got yourself your Defiant champion. And some of you started like cheering sick boy. Sick boy. Because in your lives you can never imagine having the balls to do what I do. having the sheer guts, just as thoughts of what I want to do. You struggle. You got to work every day, do your 9 to 5, or maybe you sit at home unemployed on your Xbox. And you wish that you could be the bad guy. You wish that you could be the big monster. You wish that you could be the Jason Voorhees, the Michael Myers. You wish that you could be the Rory Coyle. So what do you do instead? You sit at home and you cheer for him. You think, oh, this is the type of guy. It's cool now to cheer for the bad guy. But it reminds me of something. And then you leech on, you have to find that one thing I remind you of. You never get it right. You don't know where the bag of tricks comes from. You don't know what the mannequin arms are reference to. Hell, me swinging the belt around my head, you got that wrong. I'm a cult classic. I'm a video nasty. I'm the last of a dying breed. I'm not like anything you could see on a network or anything you could watch on a Monday night. Nah. I'm totally different.
Well, this is ridiculous now. I mean, has he gone?
Oh, God knows.
All right, well, that was apparently our Defiant World Champion again. I've got still no idea. You're sure this has nothing to do with you?
I can 100% hand on heart tell you that this has absolutely zip to do with me. Now, I'm going to confess something, Bradshaw. At one point, I did consider, and I was going to ask you about this, to be honest, because it's such a dangerous proposition. I did consider asking your opinion on whether or not we should invite the new Defiant World Heavyweight Champion, Rory Coyle, onto this podcast for an interview. Within minutes, in fact, not even minutes, seconds, that idea left my head because it's insane. And this morning when I woke up, I had a little chuckle to myself thinking, oh, imagine if I had convinced Dave to let us talk to Rory Coyle, but then I realised that you and I might not be here if that had been the case. I didn't foresee this happening, and it's nothing to do with me, and I am almost shocked that you would think that I have the bravery to even approach Rory Coyle and suggest something like this. This maniac's acting on his own accord.
All right, well, let's not give him what he wants, which is obviously to talk about him even more. So we'll move on, and we'll talk about the two matches for Wednesday that we haven't spoken about yet. Big opportunity for the dynamic duo on Wednesday night. Biggest opportunity of their careers, I would say. Remember, these guys are still both teenagers, Thomas and Mark Billington. They are going to go up against two absolute legends of British wrestling, making their return to Defiant, the Wonder Kid Jonny Storm, the Phoenix Jody Fleisch. If, and it's a big if, but if the Billingtons were able to defeat that team, two of the guys who have been absolute pioneers in bringing British wrestling to the fore over the past 20 years. But what a headline that would echo around the world it would be for the dynamic duo to get a win over Storm and Fleisch. How much would it mean to them? How much would it mean to Marty Jones?
Oh, well, Marty Jones was the man, the legend who helped secure this match for the dynamic duo. You know, Marty Jones realises the potential that Thomas and Mark Billington, they collectively have as a unit. So that's why he's putting them up against UK wrestling royalty, because that's exactly what Jody Fleisch and Jonny Storm are. Now, I would like to add to that the last time we saw those legends, they were on the losing end to the SCC, and I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, oh, but Ashley Dunn and Kelly Six, they cheated. They cheated to defeat Jody Fleisch and Jonny Storm. Save it, Dave, because it doesn't matter. The last time we saw those guys, they lost. And I will say this, though. I think the Dynamics, they'll have been researching every piece of that match. Marty Jones will have made sure of that. And here's a question for you, seeing as I'm so full of questions this evening. As good as the Billington boys
answers, by the way,
how embarrassing would it be for veterans like Fleisch and Storm to come up short here? Because if they have any kind of future here in Defiant Wrestling, surely they have to win this one.
Well, I wouldn't say it's embarrassing. I mean, you're talking about two guys in the Billingtons who are the nephews of the Dynamite Kid, one of the biggest legends in all of British wrestling's entire history, not just the past 20 years. So, I mean, there will always be a place for the Billingtons, I'm sure, in Defiant. There will also always be a place for two men like Jody Fleisch and Jonny Storm, who have dedicated so much and given so much to the British wrestling scene. And I don't think the result of Wednesday's match changes that. But what it does do, if the Billingtons were to win, you're right, it would be, in their minds at least, an embarrassment for Storm and Fleisch, because they would be losing to two guys who are still 6 months into their career, if that. And I mean, it's not impossible, because we've seen just how good the Billingtons are. And if it wasn't for cheating, and you might not like me saying that, but it's true, if it wasn't for cheating, they might be the tag team champions right now. So the Billingtons are the real deal. There's no doubt about that. It's just a question of whether this is too much too soon, because yes, Marty Jones will have tried to give the Billingtons some of his worldly wisdom about the wrestling world, but Jonny Storm and Jody Fleisch have been around the block many, many times. They've got the T-shirt. They will be able to predict everything the Billingtons are doing before they do it. So it's a big, big ask for the Billingtons, but it's also big risk, big reward as well. And it's an important one to win, because we're at a time when the Defiant Tag Team division, as we've talked about many times, is very, very competitive. I mean, look at another match that's been made for this week, not for Lights Out, but for this Sunday on Loaded. We now know that Tuck Shop, Jack Sexsmith and Visage, are going to take on our newest team. And let me get this right. Renben. Is that it? Connor Renshaw and Benji.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around this one. The only thing I can think of is that big Connor Renshaw, he's so desperate to get close to that Magnificent Seven briefcase in Benji's possession that he will forgo good taste and suggest a tag team, Renben. I mean, what the hell does that even mean? I do not get this, Bradshaw. I don't understand why you, the people, Defiant Wrestling Management, or anyone else in the entire wrestling world looks at Benji and thinks, Starr. I don't get it at all. Okay, he pulled out quite the impressive win and won that Magnificent Seven briefcase, but that was a fluke. A flash in the pan.
Well, not really a fluke. He's beaten Kirby as well.
Oh, come on. That's a low blow. That was a dark, dark time in Martin Kirby's life. I'll have you know that his Auntie Mavis was very ill during all that business. But anyway, moving on from that. Benji, I don't get it. I just don't see it at all. He continually surprises me. He surprises everyone. Maybe someday I'll be on the bandwagon. Oh wait, no I won't. I don't get it.
Well, maybe you're right about Renshaw. Maybe Renshaw is trying to just take advantage of Benji, because Benji has that briefcase. Remember, he tried to beat Benji for the briefcase, was unsuccessful in doing that. So maybe he's trying to befriend Benji into joining in with him in a tag team and using that briefcase to win championship gold. Maybe if they defeat Tuck Shop on Loaded this Sunday, they will have SCC in their sights, but we'll see. There's one more match we haven't talked about for Lights Out on Wednesday. Another match that was only made this past Sunday because Robbie X had to compete against man like DeReiss for the right to face Mark Haskins at Lights Out. Robbie was able to defeat DeReiss in what was actually a really competitive match on Loaded on Sunday. And he is going to face Haskins at Lights Out in Leeds. But it is a big, big match for many, many reasons. Haskins has been one of the top names in British wrestling for a long time, but especially at the moment. I mean, Mark Haskins making waves in Ring of Honor, and not least of which was at Madison Square Garden. He has just been to MSG, the most famous wrestling arena in the world, arguably, to compete in that Ring of Honor New Japan show on WrestleMania weekend. So Mark Haskins is increasingly a global superstar. Robbie X, if you remember, before that win against DeReiss, was complaining about how he hadn't really been able to get off the starting blocks yet in his Defiant career. So, with no disrespect to DeReiss, and DeReiss did well, but it is a big leap from beating man like DeReiss to beating Mark Haskins. But that is the leap, that is the challenge that Robbie X has set himself on Wednesday.
Well, I'm torn on this one. I really am, because Mark Haskins is the kind of guy who believes that fighting is the only way to make a difference. Now, man like DeReiss and Robbie X, they were sitting around lamenting their lack of personal success. Haskins came right into the picture, got between them and said, boys, 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 there's only one way to change your fortune, and that is by fighting. That is what Mark Haskins does. He scraps every day of his life for every single thing he has. Now, in terms of this match with Robbie X, What a clash of styles. Now, I know that Haskins is capable of flying around the ring as well, but this is really Robbie X's kind of wheelhouse, that high-flying mentality. Mark Haskins is more prone to getting frustrated and smashing you with a steel chair, something you and I know a little something about. What a clash of styles this is, Haskins versus Robbie X. Don't sleep on this one, people. This could be a sleeper hit on this card. Mark Haskins on a high right now after appearing in Madison Square Garden, and boy, what a come down that is from New York to Leeds. But that's a bit of a side note. Robbie X has everything to prove. Both these men do. This is going to be one hell of a match. If Robbie X can get the victory, it could shoot him up the ladder here in Defiant Wrestling pronto.
Yeah, it was interesting as well to see how enthusiastic, should we say, Mark Haskins was when he helped put together that match between DeReiss and Robbie X. And it does beg the question what Haskins is up to, because he sort of had the sense of it, he was trying to be motivational, but it was almost with that kind of crocodile smile. You know what I mean? Yeah, guys, one of you can face me. As if he was sort of secretly eyeing up who his next prey would be as a predator, but we'll see. Maybe I'm not giving Mark Haskins the credit he deserves for being a motivator of the next generation of talent. We'll see. All right. So that's just about it for Lights Out. Don't forget, again, you can join us on pay-per-view at access.wearedefiant.com. And again, if you're a new customer, you can watch the entire event for free. You can also join us in Leeds in person on Wednesday. A few tickets still left at wearedefiant.com/tickets. If you want to join the conversation with us, you can tweet us at DefiantRes. That's Defiant WRES. Use the hashtag WeAreDefiant, of course, to join that conversation. You can tweet me at Dave Bradshaw. What's going on with you? What's your Twitter handle? Remind everyone. And how's the love life going, by the way?
Oh, you don't need to ask me about that. Way to put me on a downer just before we get into Lights Out, asking me about my love life. Well, if you must know, I'm still taking some time out from dating. I'm enjoying being a free man. And you can see...
Yeah.
Was that...
What's your Twitter account?
Oh, I thought you were making a sneaky comment there, as you're prone to do under your breath.
No, I'm not a nasty guy. I'm just trying to move this along, find out, get you to the point rather than another soliloquy about your romantic misadventures.
Okay, point taken. Well, if you want to find out more about my romantic misadventures, you can follow me on Twitter and or Instagram at TopClassKennedy. I've got a lot to say, an awful lot to say. Dave Bradshaw, you will not silence me.
Hello?
Oh, the connections. Is this a wind-up again?
So, going on the Lights Out, I got to see unloaded what Rampage Brown did to Justin Sizem. I know some people wanted to see the video nasty against a superhero. That's not what I want. I told you that I wanted the monster Rampage. I didn't want the best wrestler in Europe, and that's not something that I even just throw around to pop myself or to make myself sound cool. I'm not one of those types of guys. I say that because I know that he is. He is the best wrestler in Europe. He's the best kept secret in this country. And if all you fans who think you're so smart knew 1 ounce of knowledge, you would know that he could be wherever he wants right now, but he decides to be in Defiant. I don't know why, because none of you appreciated him. I had to bury him. I had to have that funeral. I had to put to rest Rampage, the wrestler. What he did to Justin. You could see it. You could see those flickers of what I wanted. I wanted the monster. See, I'm not a liar. I've never lied to any of you. I said I was coming here to make the rise of the sick boy, and I have. Oh, it's been a long shoot, and I've got all the shots that I need. I said that I was going to retire the primate and send them packing, but for some reason you all thought that I was lying. He's gone, and he's gone because of me. I told you all I wanted the monster Rampage, and now that I finally got him, you're going to need a stronger build in Leeds for Lights Out. You're going to need a tougher film crew, because what they're going to be filming is not going to be a wrestling match. No. They're going to be filming all our war between two guys that are too old to be doing this. too smart to keep going, but too dumb not to stop. I want you to turn up Rampage, not as a wrestler. I want the monster. I want to look in your eyes and I want to see a man as evil as me. A man that'll stop at nothing to get this Defiant championship. That's what I want. That's what I wanted all along.